I'm excited because I've been in this business for 20 years. I'm now recognizing in myself a certain maturity, even in the writing of the songs. They're different. I'm not the 23-year-old kid who recorded the music back in 2002. You know what I mean? I'm not even that kid who recorded Wet in 2005. I'm finding my voice in a more mature space now, and some of the topics are much more mature. So I'm excited to see how that translates music. This is like icing on the cake now. I'm just excited going forward in the future.
Yeah. So what would you say that fans demand more? Which song would you say fans demand more?
It depends on where I go. Like, it's interesting because some places I recall performing in certain places where I didn't expect like certain songs would be on the list. What I used to try to do was call ahead to hear, okay, what's happening in this space? What songs would I be expected to perform? So some songs that I didn't really pay much attention to are, favorites in certain parts of the world, But you have to have the ones that people come to know you by on the set always. No matter, like, there was a period when I really got fed up of singing with, but you have to sing it because that's the one that they love.
It's for the fans.
That's for the fans, because you sing it so much that it becomes like, But I found an appreciation for it after a while and understood its place in my catalog and its importance. So I much respect to Cherry Inns. It was an opportunity, and I think I learned that from listening to the different styles of soca and calypso around the region, because everybody had a particular song. At least everybody that I was interested in had a particular song. Burning Flames out of Antigua, David Rudder from Trinidad, Crossfire. They all had timeless music, but they had different styles and songs to them. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and work with as many different producers as possible, because I may have a signature way of writing, and if I stick with one person, that's probably gonna come through in the production. But if I expand and I work with different people, they bring different perspectives, different interpretations, and kind of diversify the song a bit.
Okay. Do you still participate in Soca Monarch?
I haven't done that in years. I don't know. I think I had an on and off, relationship with the competition. There's some years when I felt like, yeah, I could do it this year. Some years when I wasn't really that into it. But I think my last competition was way back in 2013. Yeah, 2013 was the last time I competed.
Okay, how do you feel? Because some artists think that Soca Monarch can make you and it can break you. I know in your case, it probably made you more than it broke you. So how do you feel with participating in Soca Monarch? And I mean like you participate, you're a top guy, you don't place, or you're like from the bottom and you come up and you win. How do you feel personally about Soca Monarch competition?
If you're a soca artist in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you want to be on that Soca Monarch stage. It's the biggest stage. It's the biggest platform. It's the biggest opportunity for exposure as a performer, right? Because the different segments to the industry. There's the recording segment where you do your studio work. But as an artist, there's also the performance aspect of your career. The music is really what you promote and what you use to book gigs, right? As a performer. And if you have a song that's, as they say, percolating, it's catching a little fire, one of the opportunities to help to promote the song is to get on that stage. Now, there are risks, particularly for artists who have already established themselves,
True.
right? That if you're consistently beaten year after year, you don't even register among like the top 5 or however it is. There's a risk to the devaluing of your brand, possibly. But as a new artist, yeah, you want to get on that stage. Even as a not so new artist, if you're really into it, you want to be among that mix, you know, if that's the circle that you want to get into. My approach was to use it really as a stepping stone for to building my catalog. So I placed more emphasis on studio work and making sure the songs were solid, like they were good songs, and they could stand on their own with or without my entry into a competition. And I think I had a relatively degree of success with that, because quite a number of those songs that did become successful for me were never entered in the competition. Like Wet was never in a competition. Not Going Down There Tonight was never in a competition. You know, Sweetness. I had a couple of those, that I didn't rely on the competition, but they were very well-produced songs that added value to my catalog and added value to my brand as an artist. So I think it depends on what you are. I always advise, especially if you're new and you're coming in, go for that Soca Monarchs.
Yeah, because it's like our Soca version of Sting. Like every reggae artist wants to be a Sting, and those who are not so good, they want to clash the top guys,
Yep.
Yeah, and it's good what you said, because even like you say, Wet was never in a competition, and so also like Turn Me On was never in a competition too,
Yeah, so it's
quality works,
yeah.
Yeah. So moving forward now, where are you at in your music career, in your musical career? What are we hoping to see from Bomani?
Wow. Well, I had a whole thing planned because I'd been sort of off the scene for a little while. It took some time to do some personal development. I got involved in various organizations in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I kind of needed a break, in the sense of I was living like a nomad, as living out a suitcase in hotels and so on, and doing that for almost 20 years. So I needed to get some perspectives. I took sort of a small break, did some school work and stuff like that. So I was getting set now to come back, to go back into the studio with some material to do a 20th anniversary sort of performances, release of music and of new music and stuff. And then the COVID thing hit. And so we had to kind of reevaluate, myself and my manager. We had to kind of reevaluate how we were going to approach the whole situation, because we were seeing, the changes in the industry. And given that I've chosen to live in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, how we were going to navigate this whole scene and not fall victim to the pandemic, in the sense that we're doing this 20th anniversary thing, but we can't perform anywhere because you can't have crowds and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So what I did, I just wrote some of the songs that we planning to record, and just basically waiting for the moment when we can at least try to do something. So I'm just in the wings right now, as they say, waiting in the wings.
Okay, before we play this song, jump into another song, just tell me what has COVID done to you? How has it impacted you negatively, and the positive sides of it?
This was, I never experienced anything like this in my life. It was a strange place to be in as an entertainer, because your job really is to connect to people through your music, and to perform, and to have an audience, and to make people happy and laugh and enjoy themselves. And I kept seeing that, I'm observing everything like everybody else, and trying to educate myself on the whole issue, on the whole issues. And I'm seeing how people, some of my fellow entertainers are utilizing the technology and making changes. I personally couldn't, I just couldn't get with the virtual thing. I tried, on a couple of occasions, but it's just not the same type of, it's like it feels empty. It feels hollow, because there's no human connection, and so once I experienced that a couple of times, I realized, nah, I'm not, nah, I'll wait. I'll wait. Hopefully things get back. Even if we could have 50 people or whatever it is, I'm good with that. I just need people in the room. So it was tough, it was tough. The isolation was tough. The being away from, as I said, people and friends, it was tough. It was very difficult.
Ooh, yeah. Na 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 na. Tonight is just for fun. Been dancing for so long. The air conditioned on, and windows start to sleep, mama. I must say, in all of these songs, you seem to write a story. Is that part of, say, your part of, say, your literature side of you coming out there with the storytelling?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, I was a boss in composition in my primary school years. I write these compositions, and teacher always asked me to get up and read my compositions. Short stories. I like the approach of telling short, adventurous stories, and things I would make up in my head. And so I just translated that. And then when I started paying attention to, like I said, the guys that inspired me, their approach was to tell stories as well. I know about Cyan Hill through Scorcher and the stories he would tell in his songs. Beckett is a master storyteller, and the way he crafted these images in your head through the words, like what happened to Nani, big Sunday evening accident in town,
big fly.
Yeah. So I listened to all of that stuff, and that's the approach I wanted to take in most of the music that I did, was to weave a little story into it, because even for my own generation, it was coming from, I think I was feeling like an outsider doing that, because my crowd at the time was mash up everything, and hype and getting people to get on bad and so on. But I still wanted to be able to tell some stories, even if the subjects weren't heavy or deep or intense. I could still find a way to tell a story, a cute little story about something.
Being in this industry, management is a very, very important part of the industry. How do you manage your time, and how do you manage, like, say, entertaining people, and how do you manage if people get in touch with you? How part of your management? Give us a little bit about your management.
Well, after I got off the cruise ship in 2000, I'd always been part of some kind of structure in my career. Whether I had been with a band, which had its own structure, its own management apparatus, or my own solo. From the time I started getting bookings after 2004, Soca Monarch, I knew I needed assistance. I needed help, because there were things about the industry that I didn't fully understand. And I was fortunate one day to just randomly be walking down on Back Street and ran into this guy, tall, skinny guy, that stopped me and approached me and told me who he was and so on and so forth. His name is Franklin Maxie Edwards, attorney based in New York, and involved in music management and production. And he became my manager from that year up to this day. And so I knew that I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed a team. So there was persons who were involved in my music production, musicians, arrangers, producers. There was people involved in my, even my graphic work, and rest in power to the late Super Dex, who did a lot of my early graphic work. I even had someone who was dealing with my wardrobe at a particular time, my stylist at the time, Idinga Miller. So there was a team that we assembled that helped along a lot with a lot of the work, because it's very difficult to focus on some of this business stuff when you're trying to be the songwriter and you're trying to be the artist. It's not impossible, but it's just tedious. So I was grateful to have folks in my corner who I could trust, and who helped to guide my early journey and help me to make some of the right decisions and protect me, which was important. Protect me from some of the harshness of this business, because this business is not easy, and you could get taken advantage of in a heartbeat out there. So I was shielded from a lot of the horror stories. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of those negative experiences, because I had a good team of people around me.
I asked the question because as we go about doing this interview, we realize that this is some of the things that people are bringing out to us. And these are some of the things that we are learning. Without a good managerial team, it's like we say, you're like a fish without water. And it's good that you have some people that can take care of you. And also people do take advantage of you sometimes. And it's always good that you have the people in your corner. But one thing I want to tell you, I play a lot of Vincent music. And saying that is giving you an idea that how a lot of Vincent music is out there and a lot of people don't know it. I have a lot of European listeners. England, France, they come in the thousand. But I notice every morning, like from midnight, I play a lot of Vincent music sometimes till 5 o'clock, which is by 5 their time to 10. And because I have internet radio, I can track my listening audience by country, by percentage. And I notice when I play Vincent music, especially we call it rock or soca, whatever, my listening meter goes. So I'm saying that because a lot of people don't really realize it only takes one person to listen to this interview. There's a lot of people are listening right now in Europe. So you never know where an interview will take you. You never know who is listening. And some people sometimes refuse to be interviewed, believe well, the music alone will sell them. Give me a little background on what you think about people who you think that doesn't really want to put the effort into their business to make it grow.
Look, this is work. So I do some mentoring of some younger artists and so on. And what I tell them that the percentage of, there's only one Beyonce, there's only one Michael Jackson, one Jay-Z. There's only ever going to be room for one or two of those type of entertainers. The rest of us are working shifts like everybody else. We just happen to choose the field of entertainment as our job, right? But it comes along with the same expectation and requirements of discipline and approach and being professional and taking advantage of all of the opportunities that come your way. And so it can't just be about going into the studio and making the music. You have to make yourself available to go to the areas where your music is being consumed, to introduce yourself to your audience, whether by radio platform or television platform interviews or whatever it is. I remember when I had just, I think it was what I had done at the time, my manager had arranged for me to do an interview on, it was Hot 97 in New York. There was, they had a Caribbean program, Bobby Condas and Jabba and these guys. And I waited for weeks just to get that interview because it was like 3 or 4 million people listening. It wasn't a long interview, but it was enough to help to propel the song even further. So, you know, you have to take these opportunities when they come. As you say, you never know who is listening. You never know. We now have, thankfully, through this technology, you have the potential to be exposed to billions of people around the world. And people are always looking for something that's different, that's new, that they can connect with. They especially persons who are living in these countries in Europe and who may not have traveled to the Caribbean, but they can experience Caribbean culture through the music that we do on programs like this when they hear it. And that might motivate them to want to come to the Caribbean, to book a flight, to experience this music in its raw, authentic existence, you know. So I'm always encouraging persons to take whatever opportunities they can to promote themselves and promote their music.
Because I remember one year I went to the Vincy picnic and I was having a conversation with a Vincent who came up from St. Vincent. And one thing he said to me, he said, boy, we have a lot of new artists now taking over St. Vincent, you know. And your name came up, a couple of the names, like, you know, around your era came up. So I said, what's that? He said, boy, we music ain't going down. And look, I can attest to that from my radio. My radio can tell you exactly the kind of music that people listen to. Reggae music is number one. We know that. But I think Caribbean music is now taking off in North America. Because that's why I tell you from the beginning when you came on, I'm not going to put anything on what you should say or what you shouldn't say. Because I want you to sell yourself to the people. Tell your story. Because what we don't really realize when we come to do an interview is basically for you to sell yourself. And sometimes we get so many compliments on the interviews because we allow you to tell your story. And people want to hear your story. They don't want to hear us. How you look at the future of Bomani?
Well, I'm excited because one of the things I realize is, given that, you know, like I said, I've been in this business for 20 years. I'm now recognizing in myself a certain maturity, even in the writing of the songs. So some of the songs that I have written that I have on hold to release, they're different. Like I'm not the 23-year-old kid who recorded the music back in 2002. You know what I mean? I'm not even that kid who recorded Wet in 2005. I'm finding my voice in a more mature space now, and some of the topics are much more mature. So I'm excited to see how that translates musically when I go into the studio. And I'm thinking like this stuff now adds, this is like icing on the cake now, that I could add to my whole catalog now. This stuff that's to come in the new decade. This is I'm just excited to contemplate going forward in the future. Like I'm pretty sure that the whole world is gonna sing this stuff.
One thing we do on this radio station is that we always kind of acknowledge. I'm gonna pass you back over to the host, but this is one of my favorite songs as well.
Yeah, one of mine too.
Yeah, so Bomani, you did a couple opening, I think, for 112 and so some groups, R&B groups, but you also did an impromptu piece with Jeffrey Osborne in 2006.
Oh yeah, that was at the Blues Festival here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in all, how do you feel about collaboration? with other artists, both locally and regionally or even internationally. Before you go on, I just want to ask you, like, also, do you think that it helps to, like, an artist like you, who you already made it, you're out there, to collaborate with younger artists? And what's your take on that, for collaboration with older and younger artists, or established and younger artists?
Yeah, I mean, that's collaboration is nothing strange in this business. In fact, it is what propels. It's one of the main ingredients in the music industry. And of course, you have collaborations on different levels. What I do is collaborate with arrangers and musicians. One of my favorite things to do is to have the actual musicians in the studio while we're making the song, right? Because I might have an idea of what I would like the song to sound like, but when the bass man hold on to the melodies, and he start playing and vibing, and he start interpreting, it takes it to another level that not even I was thinking of. And the same thing with all the other musicians in the studio. So that collaborative effort, even at that stage, when the song is being cooked, as they say, when it's being made, is to me is very, very critical, right? Collaborating with producers, and then he's collaborating with other artists, and it's like some of the songs that have become staples for Caribbean music happen to be some of the greatest collaborations that you ever heard,
Yeah, I mentioned that the other day, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I whenever I get an opportunity to work with other artists, I take it. If you had told me, even when I was studying these guys, that one day I would get to work with them, I wouldn't have believed you. I got to work with Vincent in the studio on a collaboration. I got to work with Beckett on a collaboration.
Which one was that?
Beckett had called me and I was very reluctant, because that was one of it. We were celebrating 40 years of Vincy Mass some years ago. And he called me one morning and asked, he said he wanted to do a remake of his 10 years, right? And he wanted me to do the second verse on it. And I struggled with that for a while. Because, I mean, this is like I always feel like if something is, 10 years is almost perfection. Mm-hmm. And if something is so good, you know what, don't mess with it. But he was very gracious, and he convinced me that we should do it. And so we went in the studio and yeah, we did it. And it was a great experience. The same thing with Sus. When we talked about working together, we spent about 4 or 5 years trying to pin down time and schedules. And eventually he said he had the song, like he'd written the song like 3 or 4 years before we recorded it. And it was just a matter of finding the time to do it. And we happened to be in New York at the same time. Went to by Cherry in studios, and we did that recording. So I'm inspired by collaborating with those who inspired me. And then there are those who I guess I would have inspired, who approached me, to do collaborations. Some of the younger artists who have great potential as well. And I was able to work with a few of them as well.
Mm-hmm. So you're such a brilliant songwriter, and you're a brilliant singer. That's very evident in your music. Have you ever written for anyone else?
Yeah, there was a period of time when I didn't have that kind of confidence. Like I knew I could do it for me, right? But there was a pressure, because I had been approached by a couple of artists, particularly after the I Am Soca, wet period, when those songs were like coming out and doing well. And a couple of people would approach me to ask me to write songs for them. And I would be a little reluctant, because I knew the expectation at the time was, once I write it, that, they would expect it to hit too, and I didn't want to put that, I didn't want to put a pressure on myself or on them. So it took me a while to kind of navigate that, it's not really about trying to make another hit for somebody. Somebody's trying to find their way into this space, and if I could help, I would help. And so I ended up doing a couple of songs for an artist based in New York, named Buski. I wrote a couple of his early songs. And then there are periods when I'm in the studio when other artists are happen to be recording, and I would give guidance, you know. I might add a verse here or there to try and help them along in that sense.
Like, I know your idol, of course, is like Beckett and those guys, but who would you aspire to be like in the singing fraternity?
Well, I don't know. I think I always, as much as I admire some, you know, I listen to some of the greatest musicians on the planet. I mean, my music collection is quite extensive in all genres, all of the best. But I always try to see if I could find, even though I'm inspired, to try to see if I could find my own voice and my own space, and to aspire to be, you know, Bomani, right? As I remember one time somebody had said to me, like, if I did so and so, if I did this thing like this or like that, then I could be the next so and so. And I always found that to be a strange thing to say to somebody. Like, people are trying to be themselves in this business, you know, and yeah, you might want to occupy a lane or a space that somebody is in, but you want to bring your own character and your own personality and your own being into that space, and not necessarily to try to copy somebody else, to be like somebody else.
True, because there can only be one so and so, you know. And
yeah, that's what it is.
And that's where we have to respect, you know, people who in like artists and people who are in, you know, like sports, and the comparison is not a fair one even, you know. Like, you can always take a page. So having said that, whose page would you like to emulate? Whose page would you like to take?
I want to have the kind of career that people like Vincent and David Rudder and them guys have, like 10, 15, 20 years from now. Music is still relevant. It still sounds, it still, you know, it still connects, even though it was recorded 30 years ago. Because there was a period of that even our local industry here, the music went through this period of instant gratification and sort of disposable era, where you use it for like a few weeks and then it's done. You know, that was always my biggest fear, is you know, spending all that, you know, because recordings are expensive.
True,
you know, spending all that money and making all that investment, and to not have that opportunity for the music to have legs and live longer. And so yeah, I would like, I plan to do this. I saw a clip with Lord Nelson from Trinidad. I mean, the man has a cane, walking stick, right? He's probably like, I don't know how old he is, but the man's still kicking. The man's still jamming in parties and still kicking. Like, that's what I want, you know? That's what I want to do.
Yeah. That's he's one of my favorite, Lord Nelson. But having said that, Bomani, how did Bomani come about, the name Bomani, and what does it mean to, like, for us who don't know, what does it mean?
Bomani is my middle name, actually. Like, it's my name is Orande Bomani Charles. Like I said earlier, my parents were Rastafarian, so we all got African names. And so Bomani means strong soldier or appointed warrior, depending on where in Africa you go. It has different little meanings. But when I was trying to become an artist, I thought about like what I could be called, and I didn't really want to do the typical make up a calypso name like Lord something, or you know what I mean. So, and I thought about different names that I could use, but I kept coming back to this name that I had, which was my middle name, that I didn't hear a lot here in St. Vincent. In fact, there was only one other person I knew with that name. And I chose it for a couple of reasons. At first it was, and still is to some people, very difficult to pronounce. And I felt like this was one way to tell who was really into my music, right? And who I could focus on in terms of getting them to buy into my work. Because if you're into my music, then even though the name might be difficult to pronounce, you would take the time to learn to pronounce it, right? And so once I got that, I was good.
Mm-hmm. Well, my brother, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It's a pleasure to meet you, virtually, of course. You know, we love your music. Continue to make good music that will live on. And you know, you're pretty young, so you know you have another. You've gone 20 years into the business. You know, you have another 30 years into the business again. You know, so
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
As chairman of the 9 Morning Committee, I'm going to give you an open invitation. If you want to bring members of your committee and you have the time to get in touch with us, and then we can do something about 9 Mornings, because I definitely want to get 9 Mornings out there to listeners.
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely tell the guys.
You can send me some information, or you can send it through Moulton. I'm in Canada, but I'm a Vincentian.
Right, of course,
St. Vincent cut deep in my skin.
Of course.
I don't care what anybody want to say. St. Vincent comes first. So
no matter how far we roam, you know.
I tell you, St. Vincent is still my home.
Yes.
But inside of that, I really want to thank you for being here and really enjoy this interview. Use Vincy Internet Radio as your own. Anytime you want to come onto Vincy Internet Radio, if you can't get me, or if you send me a message and I'm not responding fast enough, get in touch with Moulton.
Definitely.
Right? But anytime you want to come back here, whether you want to release a song, whether you want to put some information out about Bomani, whether you're going on tour and you want to lighten up the situation, get in touch with us and we will do that. See Vincy Internet Radio as Bomani mouthpiece. You understand?
Well, I really appreciate that, man. It was a pleasure being here with you guys and getting to share a little bit about my story and my music.
And that's what we want. We wanted to share your story. In wrapping up, what would you like to say? And you must say, I wanted to at least say something to my European listeners. I have a lot of European listeners, if you want to say. Now it's about close to midnight, yeah? So
right.
Something for my European listeners before
I've always wanted the opportunity to thank everybody, like particularly those in other cultures, from other cultures, who have appreciated this music that I've made. And it wouldn't be where it is now without those heirs that have shown me so much appreciation and love over the years. So I want to thank each and every one of them for sustaining my energies and my vibes, and for continuing to inspire me to make new music and to sing the old music. And we're in this together, really. I miss you guys because it's been a while since I've been in that part of the world, but I look forward to the day when we could all get together again and have a great time with this music that I've made.
Your social media, if you can tell the people where they can find you, to follow you on social media.
Oh yeah, well, I got into the social media thing a little late, but I'm there as Bomani Charles on Facebook. I try to post as often as I could. If you check my Instagram as well, it's Bomani_live. I post more there these days than on Facebook. And you can find my music on YouTube on Bomani Songs, and some other sites, Spotify, iTunes, etc. To find my music.
All right. Want to thank you, man, and appreciate it. And don't forget, anytime you want a Vincy Internet Radio, is your mouthpiece. So don't forget to, anytime you want to come on Vincy Internet Radio, you're welcome, right? Really enjoyed this interview, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Peace.
Respect.